All right, let's dive into one of history's most, well, bizarre and disastrous stories. It's this incredible tale about unintended consequences, about colonial ambition, a city totally overrun with pests, and a government plan that just backfired in the most spectacular way you can imagine. And it all comes down to a mountain of missing rat tails. So let me ask you a question. What's worse than a city full of rats? I mean, really think about it. You're trying to build this beautiful modern city, but you've got a serious pest problem. What could possibly be worse than that? How about a city full of rats that you paid for? That you, as the government, actually paid people to create? Yeah, this is a story about good intentions going horribly wrong. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Hanoi, Vietnam, way back in 1902. It's under French colonial rule, and the dream is to turn this city into a jewel of Southeast Asia. But there's a nightmare breeding just beneath the surface. So, the French had this huge vision, right? They wanted to build the Paris of the East. We're talking wide avenues, beautiful buildings, and a state-of-the-art sewer system. But what they actually built was a rat paradise. These brand new sewers, these dark, protected tunnels, they basically became a rodent superhighway, leading straight into the homes of the French elite. I'm not kidding, people were finding rats popping up in their toilets. And look, this wasn't just, a disgusting problem or a PR nightmare. When you have millions of rats, you have the very real threat of the bubonic plague. So the French government knew this was a massive crisis. They had to do something, and they had to do it fast. Their professional rat hunters were completely overwhelmed. They just couldn't keep up. So the government comes up with what they think is a brilliant idea. They're going to pay the public to solve the problem for them. Crowdsource it, basically. Now, the plan seemed super simple, foolproof even. They offered a bounty to the public, 1 cent for every single rat killed. And the system was straightforward. Step 1, you kill a rat. Step 2, you cut off its tail. Step 3, you bring that tail to a government office as proof. And Step 4, you get paid your 1 cent. Seems logical, right? Clean, efficient. What could go wrong? Well, here's where things get interesting. The French officials, for pretty obvious reasons, did not want thousands of rotting rat bodies piling up at their offices. So they made a crucial decision. They said, you don't need to bring the whole rat, just bring the tail. And that one tiny, seemingly sensible rule, it changed everything. At first, it looked like a massive success. The French administrators were probably high-fiving each other, patting themselves on the back. The data that was coming in made it look like they were winning the war on rats. The bounty system was a huge hit. And the numbers were just staggering. I mean, by the middle of May, people were turning in 4,000 tails a day. By June, that number had jumped to an insane 20,000 per day. The officials are looking at their spreadsheets thinking, wow, at this rate, Hanoi is going to be rat-free in no time. But there's a glitch in the system. While all the bureaucrats are in their offices celebrating the data, the health inspectors actually walking the streets of Hanoi, they're starting to notice something really weird. The city, it doesn't seem to have any fewer rats. In fact, it kind of seems like there are more than ever. So, this is the big question that unravels the whole scheme. Why were officials suddenly seeing thousands of perfectly healthy, living rats, but with no tails? I mean, they were everywhere, running through alleys, eating garbage, totally fine, just missing their tails. What in the world was going on? And this is where you see the brilliant, if kind of twisted, logic of the local rat hunters. See, the French government's model was simple. 1 tail equals 1 dead rat. Fewer rats, right? But the rat hunters saw it differently. Their logic, 1 tail equals 1 live but mutilated rat, which is now free to go make infinite future rats. Why kill it? Just take the tail, get your penny, and let it go make more baby rats with more valuable tails. You see, why would you kill the goose that lays the golden egg? Or in this case, why kill the rat that grows the golden tail? They weren't exterminators anymore. They'd become rat farmers. It was like this bizarre form of sustainable agriculture. But it gets even crazier. It didn't just stop at catch and release. The entrepreneurial spirit, as it turns out, knows no bounds. Things went from bad to way worse. Yeah, it got worse. Officials discovered that people were literally breeding rats in cages. They'd created an entire rat farming business. The French hadn't just incentivized releasing rats, they'd created a full-blown market for rat tails. So people were setting up actual farms, breeding rats, just to harvest their tails. So, when the French officials finally figured out what was happening, they canceled the bounty program immediately. But the damage was already done. All those rat farmers, now stuck with thousands of worthless rats, what did they do? They just opened the cages and let them all go, right into the city. The rat population exploded. It was worse than when they started. And then, shortly after that, the bubonic plague broke out. A total disaster. So, what does this whole story really teach us? I mean, beyond being just a crazy historical tale, it's actually a perfect, if pretty gruesome example of a key idea in economics. This is what's known as a perverse incentive. It's an incentive that has a totally unintended and undesirable result, one that's the complete opposite of what the designers wanted. It's when your plan to fix a problem actually makes the problem 100 times worse. Think about it. The French wanted fewer rats. That was the goal. But they paid for a never-ending supply of tails. They weren't rewarding the outcome they wanted. They were rewarding a metric that could be easily gamed. And it all comes down to this really simple but powerful idea. When you measure the wrong thing, you get the wrong result. The French measured tails, so that's what they got. An unbelievable number of tails, attached to an even more unbelievable number of live rats. So here's the final question, the thing that makes this story so relevant today. Where else in our modern world do we reward the tail instead of the real goal? Think about schools rewarding test scores instead of actual learning, or companies rewarding short-term profits instead of long-term innovation. Where else are we accidentally encouraging the very thing we're trying to stop? It's something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.